We are going to talk about a movie.
This is gonna be a disaster.
It was one of the best movies of the year.
It's gonna go so well. Probably one of the last movies I would ever want to see in a theater.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of 10 Years On. I am your host, Jacob Blunden, and today we are going to be talking about the films released on May 21st, 2010. But before we get to those, let me introduce my co-host, Taylor Robinson. How are you?
I'm great. I'm interested to see how this conversation's gonna go.
Yes.
We've got some movies
We
this
do.
week.
We have two very interesting movies this week.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good though. I think I should have brought my sunglasses though, getting used to our new setup that we got going on. It's all nice and bright in here.
It is very good. I'm very much enjoying it. But before we get to those movies, we are also joined by our co-panelists, Nick and Peter. How are yous?
Very well. Doing very well.
Yeah.
Excited. I like one of the movies that we're talking about very much so I'm excited to get excited about it.
And
Yes.
I'm excited to be next to an excited Nick. So,
Well.
yep, 20 weeks, still hasn't changed.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the two films released on May 21st, 2010 were, of course, Shrek Forever After and MacGruber. This is the Memorial Day weekend in the United States.
Yeah.
So it is a huge
Party in
weekend.
the USA.
It is a huge weekend for box office in the US. So let us start with our first film, Shrek Forever After. Rumpelstiltskin tricks a midlife crisis-burdened Shrek into allowing himself to be erased from existence and cast in a dark alternate timeline where Rumpelstiltskin rules supreme.
This is god awful.
Yeah,
like the
it's-
animation on this poster,
Oh, it's bad. Look how
Is
big Shrek's face is.
horrific.
His head's done a full 90-degree turn on his body.
And, like, let's not put in Donkey and Puss in Boots and Fiona, the characters
Yep.
that everyone has, like, grown to love.
Yeah.
Let's just put awkward looking Shreks behind Shrek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no color with the
Yeah.
witches.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
not a good poster.
This
How's
is the
that-
Civil War poster. before
How's
the
that
Civil War
tagline,
poster.
you guys? Like, that is wordplay.
Yeah.
Oof.
But also, it's like this is when they were marketing it as the final
final
chapter.
chapter.
So this one was marketed as this is it. This is the last Shrek movie.
Which still technically is
It's
true at
technically
this
true,
point.
but
They're still working on a
they're
Shrek
working on a
5.
fifth one at the moment.
Good luck getting
And
Cameron
still-
Diaz out of retirement.
3D reigning
But please
supreme.
bring Cameron Diaz out of retirement.
I mean, yeah, this is just not a great poster. It's not really giving you much of a story to look forward to. Like, obviously, if you know that's Rumpelstiltskin, kind of, but it's not really engaging
yeah.
in any way.
Otherwise, you're just like, oh, is it like a...
It's a troll doll.
It's a troll, yeah. Like, there's
yeah.
nothing there
Like-
that gives you an indication as to...
This poster
gonna
would
be?
work if that was Prince Charming.
Yeah.
Like, because we know
that
that.
there's sort
Um,
of- yeah.
Lord
Oh,
Farquaad.
yeah, but even then, like you go, okay, cool. But this is a character who has never been introduced.
Yeah.
It's a character who absolutely no one knows. So like, yeah, this is not a good poster.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this movie. I had only ever seen it once. I didn't actually see it in theaters, but I'd only ever seen it once.
I had not seen it.
You
I
guys?
had seen it once, but I've completely forgotten it.
Yeah, I had seen it once in the cinemas too, because I didn't hold it as close to my heart as the other ones.
Yeah, especially after Shrek 3, I was kind of like, I don't care anymore. Like, Shrek is so good. Shrek 2 is like, Shrek 3 is like,
So actually,
Shrek 4 is nowhere near as no good at all.
See, I actually like Shrek 2. Like, I think Shrek 2.
I like it.
I like Shrek 2. I think my memory of this one is that me and my family used to have like a thing. We always went to go see the Shrek movies together. Like, we'd seen all of them together, like the other three. This year, it came out so close to Toy Story 3, and Toy Story 3 was the one that we went to see instead. It was like, no, we're going to go see. We're going to go see. We're going to go see Toy Story 3 instead. So
10 years on, retrospect, that paid off, I think, big time.
so let's actually talk about Shrek Forever After, or Shrek the Final
Can
Chapter.
I say literally the first thing that came out of my mouth, and the first thing I said probably within about 2 minutes of turning this movie on? Did the animation get worse as the Shrek movies went
right.
on? Because it is horrible.
Like a part of me's thinking maybe because it was 3D. Did I just say 3D really weird? Then I think I did 3D.
3D?
3D.
3D.
But I feel like maybe it didn't translate to 2D.
It felt
Maybe.
very cheap. It
just-
felt
it did,
rushed. Like they were like, we're going to make a
was like-
fourth Shrek movie, but it's got to be out within the next
Like,
12 months.
Like
it
a
almost
straight to video sequel.
it felt like an off-brand.
Yeah.
Like where they're like,
Yeah.
it's almost Shrek, but it's Shrek.
Right. Yeah, like you know how we have Jurassic Park and then we have Triassic Garden.
Yeah, that's
That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And
It's
it just, and like poor Cameron Diaz, she didn't want to be there
No.
at all.
Oh god, no.
Like none of the cast sounded like they really wanted to be there, but her, I was like, oh
Especially-
no.
Yeah.
No. And I feel like this movie just felt super lazy to me. Like, I think one of the laziest writing tropes you can do is the alternate timeline. But for a whole movie, we're seeing just rehashes of everything we've seen before, slightly changed. There's no dramatic big differences in this film except the fact that Fiona's leading an ogre revolution, which I was watching that and I was like, this is the story they chose for an alternate timeline. I was like, this is the direction they really wanted to go down.
Well, as someone who hadn't seen the movie before and didn't know what it was about, as soon as they went, oh, you can have your perfect day and change your life, and I was like, I hate this storyline in all movies except for a handful that actually do something with it and do it well. But that's usually not the case when people choose to do this storyline.
It's just a lazy choice.
It's a lazy choice, and that you make that character just look like an asshole most of the time because they have a good life, a great life, especially in this movie.
Oh, and you know that's what the lesson's going to be.
And you're just like, why am I here for this ride when I feel in my soul, having not seen this movie, that they're not going to do anything interesting with it.
No.
Which sucks, because I kind of like the first 15 minutes is okay. Like when we're seeing Shrek dealing with going through his midlife crisis, I was like, there's funny jokes that are semi-relatable, not for me because I'm not in my midlife crisis yet, counting down the days. But like, there's some funny things that happens, and I think the party scene, the kid's birthday party scene, is like the epitome of anxiety and chaos, and it is actually made really well. Like I was watching that scene, going, this is stressful to watch. And then it all goes to shit from there. But I guess we'll talk about the party scene.
But like before we get to the party scene, which is admittedly has the one line that I only remember from it. When the movie started, I was like, oh, maybe it's gonna be like better than what I thought, because I actually laughed a lot when the gay vampire character is like standing there like a prostitute.
Yeah.
It kind of goes. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe like if it's going to have that kind of humor.
Well, that
I might
Shrek
be
1 sort of edgy humor.
Yeah, and then like some of the looks that the witches give, like they kind of give these like little bitchy looks that I'm like, I can dig this. But overall, apart from the... Do the roar! That's about it.
That was my big criticism for this, is that there is some fun that it tries to have. Like there is a few moments where it's like, okay, we're trying to have some fun. It's lost any originality. Anything that they had that was bare, like that's what Shrek was famous for. It was edgy and original. Like it was clever and funny. It's lost all of its cleverness. It's lost a lot of its humor, and it's lost its originality. Like the series is just dead. And it makes sense that this was the last one they made, because they kind of saw the writing on the wall, and that, hey, we do another one of these and it ain't gonna do very well.
We did get a very funny Puss in Boots movie out of it, I think.
I haven't actually seen it.
I'm not the biggest fan of that one, so
Right,
we'll see. We'll see next year. We'll see next
Puss
year.
in Boots
me,
in this
right?
movie.
Fat Puss in Boots.
I was just like, I didn't get it. I was like, oh, I tried to make parallels to Fat Thor from Endgame, but I was like, no, it makes sense that Thor is struggling with a lot of things. And I was like, Puss in Boots doesn't sound like he's got a lot of reasons that he's struggling a lot at the moment. He has to be this
it was just like,
fat,
let's
depressed
just have a
character.
cheap visual gimmick, because like we're used to Puss in Boots being so like agile, like a cat. So let's make him
What? Wait,
So let's make him really fat and not be able to like lick himself and then ask a donkey to lick him, and I'm like, that's going off into a whole other tangent thing. Anyway.
Can we stay on that tangent for 1 second, if that's okay?
Because I wrote down. You know what, Nick? Yes.
I wrote down a line from this movie that I was watching it and I was zoning out a little bit, and then I heard this line and I went, "Wait, what the fuck?" And I actually rewound. Shrek comes up when Shrek is found the revolution and he's talking to Fiona. And he's chasing Donkey, and he finds Donkey with the revolution, and he goes, "My donkey fell in your waffle hole." And I went, "Sorry?" And I rewound it, and I listened to it. He goes, "Oh, no. He said, my donkey fell in your waffle hole." And the whole entendre was meant. Like, the way he looks at Fiona after he says it, I was like, oh, this is a straight up joke about donkeys entering holes. So I was very taken aback by that, and it didn't fit this movie.
I'd be taken
that's
aback
for sure.
by that too. I mean, if a donkey fell in my waffle hole.
Yeah. Oh, look, it sounds uncomfortable. So
It's not.
that was in this movie. That's what I'm saying. It was awful.
The other thing that I do want to mention as well is I found it really weird. They didn't get a named actor for Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah.
He's someone who's just done additional voices.
It's
I was thinking
Walt
that.
Dawn, and I'm like, who the fuck is that?
Like, don't get me wrong, he's not terrible. Like, it's
not at all.
it's strange.
Like his voice suits the character.
Yes.
But when you listen to it, you're like, oh, it's like Zach Galifianakis or something.
yeah.
Like, is it someone? But no, it's just a nobody.
Like,
Get John Hamm for the supporting ogre, but yeah, don't get someone for your main villain.
yeah, it's just, I thought it was interesting. I was like, oh, okay.
I will say one of the voice actors that I do like is Craig Robinson doing the sassy cook who's like, you're going to need some chimichangas after this, okay? I thought he was really funny.
He's fantastic.
And I will go on the record to say that John Hamm as an ogre, yes. Talk about
Whatever.
donkeys.
John Hamm can fall into a waffle hole. Is that what you're trying to say?
Hamaconda, as we all know it.
Well, with that, I think we might move on to our next movie, unless you have anything else you want to add.
They try and recreate the magic of the first Shrek by doing the "I'm a Believer," everyone's singing, and that trash is fuck. Sorry, that cover is trash. That "I'm a Believer" cover sucks. It was insulting to what they.
And like, how bad is that? Yeah, how bad is that? You like Smash Mouth is not the worst.
I know.
cover of that song.
As the only fan of Smash Mouth in the world, I was offended.
Well, guys,
That was yep. Okay.
Yep.
Shrek Forever.
that was
Yep.
Shrek Forever.
We made that movie sound so much more interesting than what it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we
boring.
just made it. It's boring. It is
Yeah.
just. It's like it's 90 minutes.
Like
and
it went. There was so long where I'm like, I haven't giggled, smirked. Like I was like, you know, the vampire at the beginning, and then the do the roar, and then Craig Robinson. And I'm like, that's 3 in 90 minutes. I was like, that's not
no
great.
laughing at donkeys and waffle holes by any chance, or
I was like, that's not a laughing matter, Nick.
yeah, it's a very serious issue.
But that was the thing. Like, I kind of was just like, this isn't a movie that's god awful, and it's not a movie that I'll be like I'm angry about, or one that we will talk about next week. Like, it's more, you know, it's just a movie. It was a movie that just came and went, and
It just was.
Yeah, like I don't know.
But I mean, as we'll find out, it stayed.
It made money.
It stayed longer than anyone thought it
That
would.
name recognition.
Yeah.
Works.
All right, let's move on to our next film. We have the 2010 film MacGruber. Former special operative MacGruber is called back into action to take down his archenemy. Oh God, I'm never gonna get that
Wait,
name.
can I do it?
Okay.
You're gonna have to like.
Yep.
Do you mean
Former special operative MacGruber is called back into action to take down his arch enemy, Dieter von Kuntz, who's in possession of a nuclear warhead and bent on destroying Washington, D.C.
MacGruber, it's con. And we're allowed to say that because it's the name of the character and the word ends in an H.
Guys, that poster.
It's selling exactly
everything.
what it is.
It is exactly what this movie is.
I love that, as in the movie, they play it so straight.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Oh
it's
God,
so
yeah.
great. Like, Oh,
Like
it's
the
so great.
this
It's
is like
all guns.
the way they're posed
it's
is
perfect.
perfect because you're right. They're taking it so seriously, and then the background that's put on
It's
it,
just a big
it's
fucking
just
explosion.
But it's like
like-
they're playing it so seriously, but it's like, but they're all in on the joke.
Yeah.
Oh,
so it's
yeah.
not
Yeah.
like they're like playing it seriously in an unintentionally
This movie
funny
is
movie.
is
It's like
pretty much
I-
cast perfectly.
it's so good.
I love how like it has the artistic flair though. Like it's not
Yes.
just straight up them.
No.
It like has
You can
filters
imagine it
and
being in
it's-
like a black background and like them just. I think there is a poster.
There
where it's
is
just
one,
a very
yeah.
plain background, but yeah, I agree. Oh man, they're all like highlighted a little
I know.
Kristen Wiig
They've got the glam.
is selling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
bit.
I dig
God
it.
damn it,
I love
Alright.
it.
guys.
Put that on my wall.
Talk
I know, right?
about MacGruber.
Let's talk about
Okay,
MacGruber.
I had never seen this.
No,
ever.
me neither.
Like, this is the first time I'd ever seen it.
I'd seen the sketches that it came from.
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
the
the
SNL
SNL
skits
stuff,
that
yeah.
it came from.
I knew nothing about this movie. All I knew was that his reputation.
Yeah.
It is one of the funniest movies ever made.
For
And
the
you had-
right audience.
For the right
For the
audience.
and you
Yes.
had
It's-
you had two people that very very much liked it.
Yes.
And we were very worried.
We had to talk about it privately. That's why we were just like,
I was like-
God, we hope they.
I'm like,
enjoy
oh, is it like, oh, we those people that like hype something up and they're just like, what the fuck is this shit?
Because it's
No.
weird.
And
My-
it's,
don't get me wrong.
it's not for everyone at all.
Like my mate was the same. I told my mate, "Oh, I'm watching MacGruber
Shout out to
tonight."
Pat.
Yeah, Pat. I was watching MacGruber that night, and he was like, "Don't tell me what you think of it," because he thought he loves that movie, and he thought I would hate it.
He was like,
and
"Don't be a Jacob and ruin all the movies."
don't ruin it for me."
I was like, well, we're calling now if we don't like
Yeah.
it. We're like, oh, how Jacob on you. Ugh.
Well, that's definitely Pat's
That's
thing.
Pat's thing
so-
with me.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that this movie has going for it, other than the fact that it is very, very funny, it's 90 minutes and it flies by.
It flies.
It does it, yeah.
Flies.
Oh.
It
And-
never drags.
and-
oh,
Some SNL movies do.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
They
Yeah.
linger far too long. Like they keep playing
Yeah.
the joke and like we get it. This
Yeah.
is like, nah, I'm just.
This is just that
moving on.
rare SNL movie, and the thing that it benefits from the most is not being a TV PG
Yeah.
SNL movie. Like
Yeah.
it is a hardcore, violent, full of swearing,
Full of sex.
crudely sexual movie, and it works
And
for
also,
it so well.
apart from Ryan Phillippe and Val Kilmer, who are not also like you wouldn't call them like big names, but they're big enough names. It doesn't have any like you don't get distracted by like there's like Edward Norton in a weird role or there's
Yeah,
there's no
so like what the Lonely Island do,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, it's
Lonely Island
like-
can pull it off because they're huge.
Well, this
They're
was
obviously
directed by
big
someone
and-
from the Lonely Island.
Yeah,
right?
you're my
Yeah.
what's
yeah.
her name?
but yeah, like I
He's
like
married
that-
to Marielle Heller.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
Nice. I like that they were just like, we're not going to distract people with big names because this is enough of a movie as it is.
I did like look. The first 10 to 15 minutes took me a bit, and I'm like, okay, I get. Like I actually put this in the group. I said,
Yeah.
I get why people love
Because when
this.
you said that, we were like, oh,
Shit.
Yeah, I was like,
God damn
I
it.
get why people love this, but this isn't my sort of humor.
Yeah.
And then it's got lines that are just so funny.
Yeah.
Will Forte in this movie delivers those lines like a fucking god, dude.
and,
He is
and
so
that's the
good.
thing that like a lot of these type of comedies, they don't have the lines to back it up. It's the situation
Yeah.
that makes it, that is, you're meant to laugh at the situation, and it's the situations that I don't generally find
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, like, we might be finding that in Getting to the Greek. Like, I remember, like, Getting to the Greek from
Yeah.
memory, it does that, where it's like, oh, the situation alone is funny,
Yeah.
and there's not the dialogue and the lines and the
Yeah.
actual humor isn't really there. It's just humor from the situation. This movie finds dialogue and finds humor in the actual lines and comedic timing, and it is just so fucking funny. And I laughed so much harder than I actually thought I would, and
so
I
happy.
really, really thoroughly enjoyed this.
Oh,
I'm so happy.
music to the ears. Because I was really, because this was a movie that I didn't see it in cinemas because I think it lasted.
I don't even
like-
think it came
I think
here.
it lasted like a week here.
Yeah,
Because
maybe.
it bombed hard. And I remember watching it, and This is one I blindly bought this on DVD.
Wow.
I'm like, I haven't seen it,
a
but I've
bold
heard
strategy,
good things, and I'm
Colin.
like, you know what? Throw the dice and see what happens. Loved it.
So good.
But I've watched it sporadically over 10 years.
Yeah.
And then I was watching it, and I haven't watched it in like a very long time. And a part of me was like, oh, I remember really liking the first half, but not liking the second half as much. So a part of me was like, oh, I wonder if that's going to stick. And rewatching it, I was like, I do think the first half
The first half is a lot
funnier.
funnier. The first half is a lot
I think.
There's
I think
still
it's-
funny moments
There's
in
still
the
funny
second
moments
half,
in the
but
second
I agree. I think there's a bit more pace in the first half. I think there's a bit more rapid fire with the humor. We're thrown
I'll
around.
agree
a
with
fair
that.
bit.
I would definitely agree with
they,
that.
they throw it out a lot more than the second half.
There's a lot
but-
more parody in the first,
Yeah.
until we get to like the main climax. There's a lot more like taking the piss out of a lot of things as well, with like getting the team together, or like MacGruber's been isolated in a fucking like monk community for like 20 years since his wife was blown up at his wedding by Dieter von Kunt, which shot a rocket launcher at the ceremony.
And I
God.
love the payoff that he's like, why does Kunt want to kill you? And he was like, I have no idea. And then he tells the story about it. He's like, you stole, like they were dating. You stole her away from me. You made her have an abortion. Like I love it. And he's just so dumb.
He's like, I can't see why you wanted to kill me.
Like we were all roommates and they were together, and then we started having sex on the side, and I made her abort their baby, and then I was like, then we got married. I just don't understand. Oh, so good.
The movie's bold though with its opening, because it opens with a semi-serious action scene, or like it sets up a serious plot for the movie.
It opens with a very typical like 1980s, 1990s, like everything's played.
There's no jokes.
So
It's
serious. Like,
super
there's like,
serious.
There's like the saxophone soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like Power's booth is like, like we need you back, Mac.
I'm
like,
not
it's all
coming
like-
back.
Yeah.
I vowed to this life.
And then it's like, yeah. Oh,
It's cunt.
It really it reminded me of
the theme song.
of the way that Hot Shots 2
Yes,
did it.
Yeah.
that was my big thing. I was
And
like, okay,
Hot Shots 2 is like
Hot Shots is
that is a
fantastic
great
movie.
Taylor, you have not said anything about how much you love this movie.
Forcing the words. Okay.
No, I'm just having a good time watching you guys talk about
Oh,
it.
man.
That's all.
That's fair.
I mean, you know that I liked it just as much as you did.
It's not the sword you're gonna die on,
Like,
like
it's-
loving MacGruber Forever, but it's the one I will die on, because this movie is fucking fantastic. Because I watched it 10 years ago when it came to DVD, and I loved it, and I've watched it so many times since. It has some of the best scenarios. So, and you were talking about the lines before. One of my, I'm just gonna list some favorite lines. I don't care. When he's going to find his teammate, so all WWE superstars, by the way, I don't know if anyone knows this, there's all WWE guys, is his team who he eventually accidentally blows up in a horrible C4 accident. But when he goes to the gym and it's Chris Jericho, and he's like, MacGruber, you look like you've been working out. And he's like, every day's a workout when you're carrying a 20-pound python around in your jeans.
But like as you said, like when he blows up the team and he just
packed the C4
and it
with
blows
my
up and
own
he
two hands.
runs around going like, you guys are you guys okay? And it's like they're just decimated over the ground. And then he's in the office and he's like, have you had it? He's like, well, it's been a real asshole of a day. And he's like, you can't see, like, and then he gets taken off the team and he wants to come back, and his way to come back is like,
Ryan Phillippe.
I will suck your dick.
I'll suck it right now. He's like, do you want to fuck me? I'll fuck anything in this
Tell me what you want me to fuck.
And Ryan Phillippe turns back, he's got his pants down, he's bent over the desk. He's like, we can use something as lube. And it's the way Will Forte says it too. He has
That's
like
the
really
thing.
weird,
It's
like
It's Will Forte's delivery that makes it so funny. We've lost you too.
his fucking obsession with putting dicks in people's mouths. And then he goes to come at the end. He's talking about like, I'm going to put your own dick in your mouth. He's like, you sound like a broken record. And he's like, the only record I'm going to break is the most amount of dick in your own mouth record.
I just want to talk about the way that they introduced Kristen Wiig.
Oh,
Her sitting at the piano. It's just,
And it's like, what is it? All I need is like you and two kids. Like it's the worst.
it's the worst song in the whole world.
And then what about your music career? It can wait.
And it's so great because they utilize Kristen Wiig in a way that has worked really well for her on SNL.
Yeah.
Where she can't sing, but she does anyway.
Yeah.
And it's so perfect the way that
she is amazing in this movie.
The scene that I will always remember is when she's dressed up as MacGruber. and he sends her into the cafe and he's like talking in her ear and then she's like, and then she takes
He's like, order a coffee. She's like, I'd like a small skinny latte. He's like, no, MacGruber wouldn't order that. He's like, wait, no.
And then she leaves the tip and he's like, MacGruber wouldn't tip. And she's like, and then she's taking it and she's like, I'm so sorry.
And this guy,
And the guy in the cafe, he's just like, whatever.
And then the bad guy starts shooting at the van that MacGruber drove in, and they're all shouting like, "Oh my god!" And she's like on the ground in the cafe going like, "No!"
And everyone's like, and then she gets up and she's like, my teammates.
But she sells that scene so well, so fucking well. My favorite joke, my favorite running joke in the movie, however, is the license plate.
Oh.
So the guy,
428BR3, 428.
the guy he's like
shitting on his neck.
and that's the funniest joke because he was obviously the guy's like pissed him off, so he remembers the license plate. Then Ryan Phillippe finds his notebook
And it's
later
like,
on.
he remembers the notes, and it's like the most throwaway joke in the show. You sort of just think, oh, it'll be one of
nothing
those,
to the story.
One of those little tiny jokes that will never get
It
reintroduced.
just keeps coming back, and the notebook just gets progressively crazier and crazy. Like he starts like scribbling to writing, like Shining style over it, and then he's like, drawing a picture of him sitting in a tree shitting on the car with the license plate on it. Then the payoff of the joke is after which I guess we'll talk about the sex scenes as well. After he's had sex with the ghost of his dead wife,
which makes perfect sense
makes
in the
sense if
context
you're watching
of
the movie. He sees the car in the parking lot and he gets to destroy the car. And then the guy comes out, he's like, fuck you, and just runs off.
one of my favorite running jokes that's like, it's so simple and it's so stupid, but it was killing me every single time, is every time they're like, all right, we need to talk about a plan. He's like, all right, my plan's to just see what happens. Every single time he's just like, we'll just go with what happens. We'll just go with it as it comes. And he's like, that's not a plan. He's like, okay, the plan is to just do it as it comes. And it's like, it's so stupid.
Yeah.
But every single time he did it, because he's so like confident, where he's just like, that's the plan. And then he gets to the notebook where it says plans, and there's nothing written there. And then he flips through it, and it's all that, just like.
And I love that they always do the typical like action movie line where it's like
The game has changed,
but the players have stayed the same.
It's just so good at parody.
All right, give us your scene. Give us something. They've been going back and forth.
Okay, well, all right. So my favorite, this isn't a scene in
much
the movie.
time
This
have
is
you
just
got?
one of my favorite stories around this movie is that the producers were sued from the guy who created MacGyver because he thought that this movie ruined his legal right to make a MacGyver movie because it ruined MacGyver so much. And it's like, that is just my favorite story.
And I have a feeling that like Richard Dean Anderson, who played MacGyver, I think he ended up like doing a MacGruber skit.
I think he did too, actually. I'm pretty sure he's in one.
To sort of be like, no, like
good,
this is, there's no one is ever going to be like MacGruber ruined MacGyver. Like, I think, you know what?
God.
No.
And my other favorite story, and I think this will come back into the next story that we're talking about, is Maya Rudolph was 8 months pregnant when they were filming this movie. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So
The first of, like, she's always pregnant.
Yeah.
so the wedding, when they shot the wedding, she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And then it was a stunt double for her during the sex scene, obviously.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
well,
that,
you know what? That's fair.
Yeah,
That was,
he wasn't. That was the other thing. He straight up wasn't.
And you know what?
good.
I love that Will Forte, who, you know, doesn't have the greatest physique and is, you know, hairy. But I love that he is just like, this is me.
to bear it for the
I am
comedy.
going to get completely naked for the sake of the joke.
Oh, it's just
And-
Like, shove a celery stick up my ass.
That
when I
is
need
the
to.
funniest-
And then when Ryan
I've got the
and then
ultimate
Ryan
distraction.
Phillippe-
See, that it's felt like that humor doesn't quite work on me. But what does the first sex? All right, let's just talk about the sex scenes.
So
The
with
first
Kristen
sex scene
Wiig.
with Kristen Wiig.
That killed me.
Kristen
I was
Wiig is
dead.
losing it, and,
Oh, you can tell.
she is trying so hard not to break.
because
and
You
it's
almost imagine it's,
amazing.
and you almost imagine it's like, this is the closest we got to filming the scene without completely breaking.
Yeah.
So let's just keep
So we're
you know
just
what?
keeping that one.
And it kind of works because like she's a a virgin.
Oh my god! Because we're thrown into the sex scene with music and candles, and it's supposed to be romantic, and then it cuts the music. It goes to a wide shot, and MacGruber's just jackrabbing on top, going, "I'm gonna come." It just gets progressively louder and louder. It's like, I'm coming.
And it's so great that like only seconds after that sex with Kristen Wiig, he goes and fucks his dead
He
wife.
feels guilty. So he goes to the grave of his dead wife and he's like, I had sex. He's like, I want you to move on. She's my best friend.
So he has sex with Maya Rudolph. But then
the ghost is, it's
in her wedding dress. And she's like, and she's like, wow. And then cuts to what's actually happening, and he's fucking air.
It's funny because he's like
he's holding her leg.
It's just bare ass going. And he does the whole thing. He's like, I'm gonna come.
I think
It's just so absurd. That's why it works. And then after that, he opens his own grave, and it's got all his stuff in there. And then pretty much everything from where he cuts his own mullet again to the end of the movie with like Ryan Phillippe putting the celery in his butt is just, whoo.
And no, the other joke that I really like paid off was when they all get shot and he picks Ryan Phillippe out of the shield, and Ryan Phillippe's like got the bulletproof vest, and he's like, how did you know I had it? And he's like, you had a bulletproof vest on. So he's like, you're gonna use me as a human shield. I really like that Ryan Phillippe committed to being like the straight guy in this, and because I don't like I think his career isn't filled with like a lot of like fun movies.
He seemed like he had a lot.
So I like that. Yeah, that he
movies.
was like, I'm just gonna commit to this.
I want to talk about my favorite bit from this movie because there's a lot to highlight about this movie. But my personal favorite is when MacGruber uses the gun for the first time.
I don't need to use a gun ever.
And he just like I can't even imitate how that went. But it was basically just spaghetti arms while he's trying to shoot these guns. Because he's never shot a gun in his life.
Because he's never felt like he needed to. And then he goes to Ryan Phillippe, he's like, why haven't I ever used guns before?
Because his fucking thing is the fucking
like making
the throat ripping.
But I love that the throat ripping is like that
brutal.
Is so brutal. And then when he does it, Ryan Phillippe's like, oh my god,
holding fucking throats there.
And he's so proud of it.
But then you get to that scene and like the look that Phillippe's just giving him as he's like wildly shooting these guns, like just good. Like I think that's one of my favorite moments because it's just like you are so hopeless. Yeah. Like I don't even know.
And there's so much subtle humor in there too because this movie is packed with laughs. And one of my favorite subtle jokes is I can't remember who he's talking to. Oh, I think he's talking to Ryan Phillippe. It's like when they're having beers later on, and he goes, "You're a loco, man." And then the subtitle comes up,
"You're crazy, man."
Oh god!
I feel like I just want to go and rewatch.
I want to watch it. I love this.
I think you two are going to watch it again tonight.
In retrospect, it should have been one that we all watched
together.
Right.
We should have, yeah.
I mean, we can always.
I mean, but here's the thing. If we did, that first 10 minutes, you two would be sitting there going, oh no, oh no, oh no.
Yeah. And we'd be like, are we allowed to laugh?
Can't control my laughter watching MacGruber.
Oh, fuck. Guys.
And then the movie wraps up.
Oh, I mean, we haven't even mentioned how good Val Kilmer actually is.
Okay, the scene where he's painting that lady.
Oh my god, the full naked lady.
And he's just like, more water, and he does like the weird like. I love that kind of joke where it's just like it makes no sense.
No,
and he's just like leave.
Yeah, and he's like,
and this old woman just like gets up.
65-year-old naked lady just has to like put a robe on and leave, and he shoots his henchman, and like the blood splatters on the thing. He's like. I like that. Hang that up.
And then you look at it and you go, you know what? That would actually sell.
If Dr. Brainwash made it, perhaps. Little throw.
Oh my god.
Someone hit him.
Yeah, there's
man.
a lot to unpack about this.
This is a movie that if you have not seen,
And I love that I don't think a lot of people have.
no,
I don't
I-
think so.
It's
a very niche thing. I
Yeah.
feel like if you
Super
haven't
niche.
seen the SNL sketches,
Yeah.
there's a very low likelihood
yeah.
that you'll actually know what it even
And
is.
I think SNL movies are sort of tarnished a little bit at this point as well, because people have seen, especially the ones that came out so like the 90s, which were like, oh, the concept's fun, but the movie's not. And we've seen better ones since. Like, in a sense, Hot Rod is an SNL like alumni movie, which is pretty good. Popstar, which no one has seen, is one of the funniest fucking movies
Popstar's
ever
great.
made.
Never stop, never stopping.
And no one's seen it. And Lonely Island are really big. So it's kind of sad. I think more people should see MacGruber and Popstar.
That is very
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
I definitely think more people need to see this movie.
I think
It is
that-
so funny.
Yeah, I think this is either going to really hit with you or really miss with you.
I
It's
think
one
so.
of those movies
Definitely.
that
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
either going to think you have to sit through the first 15 minutes,
And
I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
before you can start figuring that out. Because
And you'll get it. You'll be like, okay, this is a parody, but also not like a parody in the sense of it's
It's not scary
It's,
movie. It's
yeah,
not
it's like it's playing to.
If you've
every
never
sing-
seen, if you've never seen a MacGyver show, if you don't have no idea what MacGyver is, it would work still.
Yeah.
like
Yes.
that's the thing. Like unlike a lot of those other parody movies, where if you've never seen it,
you don't get it.
work.
Yeah. And if you know the 80s, 90s action model, where everything is so like super serious, the music is it's
Yeah.
like that saxophone
Yeah.
thing. The
Yeah.
sex scenes are always like the moonlight butt stuff. Like it's
Ridiculous.
ridiculous.
and a ridiculous like fire hazard amount of candles around
Right?
the bed. Yeah.
I think if you get what that's going for, then this will hit it.
So good.
Oh,
All right. Well, that was MacGruber. I think it's a very solid recommend. I'm going to end the conversation here before we go for another hour. So,
Oh, my other favorite.
all right, let's move on to weekend box office. Number one was Shrek Forever After with $70 million. Iron Man 2 with $26.3 million. Robin Hood with $18.7 million. Letters to Juliet with $9 million, Just Right with $4.2 million, MacGruber with $4.04 million, Date Night with $2.9 million, A Nightmare on Elm Street with $2.3 million, How to Train Your Dragon with $1.9 million, and Kites with $959,000. Dropped off from last week, we had The Backup Plan, dropped from 8th, Furry Vengeance.
Fury
Fury.
Vengeance.
Could you imagine Fury?
Yeah.
that sounds like a MacGruber movie.
it does actually.
Furry Vengeance.
My Fury
dropped
and
from
my
9th.
Vengeance.
Two Fury, two Vengeance.
And Clash of the Titans dropped from 10th. In major news stories, we have Gary Oldman joins the cast of Kung Fu Panda, The Kaboom of Doom, which will ultimately end up just being called Kung Fu Panda 2. James
Kaboom
Franco officially joins Rise of Apes, which will ultimately end up becoming Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And then we have Megan Fox confirms she will not return for Transformers 3.
Boo.
Boo, Hollywood.
And
Boo.
lastly, we have Ewan McGregor joins Robert Duvall in Terry Gilliam's latest attempt at The Man Who Killed Don
Wow.
Quixote.
10
So,
years. Wow.
yeah, we're still. Oh, well, we only got it last year.
Good news. I was like, good news. Terry Gilliam made it. Bad news. It wasn't good. But yeah, wow. He was trying to make that for so long.
I didn't like that movie, but Adam Driver looks
Dude.
fucking hot in
Dude.
that movie.
Dude.
Right?
Literally, that's all the reason you need to watch that movie. That's all,
Even his persona is attractive in that movie.
Like,
Ian is like the sort of like
just be
ass-holy
like-
director.
Yeah,
like,
you just
you
be
get
like,
it.
just seriously, just fuck me, Adam Driver.
Yes.
Launching a Patreon exclusive podcast called the Fuck Me Adam Driver podcast,
you
where we
know
just
what?
look at best Adam Driver.
Legit. If you guys want that podcast, Peter and I will gladly
it.
do that podcast
Like-
where we sit there and just watch all of his movies and talk about how fuckable each of his
and
characters
be like,
actually is.
I'd fuck him now, but I wouldn't fuck him.
Yeah, there should be
Yeah.
like a fuckable
Yeah. I think-
meter or something.
Yeah.
Where it's like less
Like-
fuckable in this moment, more fuckable
Or like
in
the
this
guy that
moment.
you'd fuck, the guy that you'd marry, the guy
Yes.
that you'd sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what?
I could
actually
dig that.
think this idea is going to
I
work.
could dig that.
bad.
It could be like a cocktail hour where we just like
Hey, I'm
we're
down
coming
for
up
it.
with ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, at least That's fair. Okay.
I think we have a good chance of Nick possibly joining us and Jacob being like, absolutely
I think
not.
like Nick's on his way.
Jacob will be sitting off camera dealing with all this. He'll just be like, okay.
He'll be our bartender making all the drinks.
And maybe like if we get like phone calls from people.
Oh my god.
Call in. Which Adam Driver would you fuck? I mean,
Guys,
we just created magic.
guys,
right now.
I think we have our new show. I'm just saying.
Fuck me, Adam Driver, Thursdays at 9.
Oh god.
We're talking more about this.
Yeah.
So back to the movie news.
It's getting real humid in here now. It's like there's a moisture in the air.
Gary Oldman. I mean, actually, it's funny. Like three of these news stories actually happen and one doesn't. You know, like James Franco is in Rise of Apes, the Rise of the.
Which
Planet.
I think it kind of was. There was a bit of a mixed reaction for that
It was-
because at that stage Franco was still more of the comedy guy.
The bad reaction, the mixed reaction wasn't here. It was when the trailer dropped and it's like, oh, he's a James Franco is a scientist.
And I'm assuming 127 Hours hadn't come out.
It comes out the end of this year.
Yeah.
But like, hadn't done like a festival run or anything yet. No one was talking about him.
but
He hadn't really. I mean, James Franco I think is a great actor, but he hadn't really shown his like dramatic stride as much yet. So 127 Hours kind of was like, oh, okay. And then I think Planet of the Apes, like it was kind of like, all right, we're a little bit more on board now. But the trailer definitely made people go, what?
Yeah. You know, and then Gary Oldman. I think he's a pretty good villain in Kung Fu Panda 2.
I remember
but-
liking Kung Fu Panda 2. I
Same.
thought it was great that they got Jean-Claude Van Damme to be the alligator, I think.
Is he in the
don't
second or
remember.
third one?
Yeah, no, he comes in the
Okay.
second. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a good pull though.
Yeah. Well done. All these news. Yeah, you're right. Megan Fox not returning from
Dude,
Transformers 3.
they sunk their own fucking ship with that whole thing.
And
Like,
then,
I don't.
And then Rosie Huntington Whiteley, like...
Yeah.
That's coming up soon.
But
That
like
news.
like we
But
get
like-
it. Like she's, you know, like, oh, she's pretty.
But like, we
that's-
plucked the blonde version of Megan Fox and
Yeah.
tried to do some.
Well,
but,
yeah,
like,
And then
they-
also like, but
Yeah.
we'll make her less charismatic.
well,
but
she had like
True,
a
yeah.
personality of a fucking wet paper bag.
Yeah.
Like
But
she was.
like basically what they did was they
true.
went. Michael Bay was like, I need someone who I can tell. No, this is. I want to shoot your ass at this angle.
Yeah.
Go there, and as a model, she
Just knew
that's
how-
what
yeah,
that's
that's what
you know
she-
that's
yeah.
her job.
She wasn't
like-
going to be like, maybe I should have character motivation.
Yeah, like
Whereas
that was why.
Megan Fox was just like, I've got a brain and a mouth and I
Yeah.
can say things.
Exactly.
And,
And he's like, ooh, I didn't hire you for that.
yeah. But then also like,
Good on her for getting out when she did then.
But then also
I
like,
don't think she
but
had
I'll
a lot to say
totally
in the matter,
rehire
unfortunately.
you like a few years later
Yeah.
for Ninja Turtles.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that whole public. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, they're the news stories.
Justice for Megan Fox.
I know.
Interesting, you know, like again, 10 years on, he only just finished making it. Which
Yeah, that is
crazy,
crazy.
yeah.
is like, I mean, you know, he wanted to make this, like he had it with with Depp.
They
He had
got
it with,
they got like a whole documentary about it before
Yeah.
the actual movie
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then
Has
Terry
that
and
been
then,
released yet? I
Yeah,
know there's
the
lots of
doc-
legal. There was
no,
a lot of legal issues.
no,
with
it's,
both
the documentary was properly released.
Okay.
well, no, this movie, he filmed it, and then it got called. No, you don't have the rights to actually
don't- yeah,
release
can't
it,
actually
and
release it.
then
And then
yeah, it was-
and then Terry Gilliam, you're just like, you've said some really, really horrible things.
Yeah.
So let's just
Yeah.
not bother
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all right, well, let's move on to Australian release dates. We had on May 20th Harry Brown,
wow.
A Nightmare on Elm Street,
Ooh.
The Backup Plan,
Yeah.
Food Inc., and the
yeah.
Aussie film Wog Boy 2. So all five. We
Sequel asked for.
we actually had a fairly big week.
That's a
That's huge,
That's
yeah.
a big
That's a
week.
lot.
Yeah.
box
So,
office.
guys, that's this week's episode.
How much fun was
So
that?
much
Yeah,
fun.
No.
clearly we had two movies. We were both a bit. It's what it is.
My
So,
throat is
yeah.
actually a bit coarse from doing all that. I actually kind of feel like
Now that I know that's what you sound like, I'm really prepared. To
it's not a surprise anymore. I'm gonna make so many bad jokes.
That's what you sound like. All right.
Well, guys, that's this week's episode of 10 Years On. Thank you so much for checking it out. We will see you next week. If you are playing along at home, next week is going to be an interesting one for you. We have Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, and Sex and the City 2. Guys, until then, if you want to check out our episodes of this show in the audio version, we have in the description down below. We also have a lot of our live streams now on Saturday and Friday nights US time. Make sure you check them out. I'm really looking forward to a lot of the ones that we do have coming up, and we hope that you join us for those. Until then, my name is Jacob London, and we will see you next time.
I'm gonna come.